The atmosphere in Judge Judy's courtroom crackled with intensity. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat poised at the defendant's table, shoulders square, gaze steady, untouched by the surrounding noise. Across the room, Judge Judy Shaindlin, known nationwide as the unshakable force of courtroom television, leaned forward from the bench, her expression more severe than usual. "Congresswoman Crockett," she said, her tone cutting through the room like a razor. "I've heard all about your antics in Congress. Frankly, someone needs to remind you how to respect authority." The crowd went still. This wasn't a routine small claims case. This was a primetime confrontation featuring a high-profile congresswoman. And Judge Judy looked ready to deliver a signature takedown. What followed would become the most viewed segment in her entire 25-year career and would catapult Crockett into a new tier of political fame. "With respect," Crockett began evenly, a subtle intensity in her voice. "You may want to double. Check your facts before coming at me." A collective gasp rippled through the room. No one spoke to Judge Judy that way. But Crockett wasn't just anyone, and what she was about to do would leave the iconic judge stunned into silence. Two towering women, two different eras, one unforgettable clash. To truly grasp why this showdown was explosive, you have to understand the forces at play. Judge Judy, 81, had become a cultural symbol, a tough, no-nonsense voice for rules, order, and authority. Raised in Brooklyn, she built her name as a family court judge before turning courtroom discipline into television gold. She commanded respect and didn't tolerate what she considered nonsense. Her success came from staying sharp, blunt, and always in control. But that control was about to be tested. Jasmine Crockett, 42, came from an entirely different mold. A civil rights attorney turned congresswoman, she built her career by questioning power, not deferring to it. She didn't inherit her position, she earned it, and she earned it by being prepared, fearless, and unwilling to accept the idea that respect must be given without proof it's deserved. In this room, philosophies were clashing. Judge Judy's old school respect authority first versus Crockett's prove you've earned it. The judge opened proceedings with a theatrical glance at her notes. "I've watched your performances in Congress," she declared, loud, combative, not impressed. "It seems like you think volume equals effectiveness, but I see a young woman who still has a lot to learn about respect, especially for those who have earned their place." Crockett didn't flinch. But those who knew her saw the shift, the narrowing of her eyes, the internal calculation. "Your Honor," she replied, measured, "I'd be happy to walk you through my record. I think you'll find it enlightening." Judge Judy's voice hardened. "Don't Your Honor me with that tone. I've been practicing law since before you were born. I've seen dozens of lawyers who thought they were the smartest in the room. They never were." The courtroom thickened with tension. Judy was trying to assert dominance. She doubled down. "You want accomplishments. I've spent 25 years on television handling people like you. That's how you earn respect results." Crockett's eyebrows lifted slightly. "People like me?" she asked calmly. "Could you clarify?" Silence fell. The tension sharpened. Judge Judy had drifted into dangerous waters. She quickly pivoted. "I mean politicians who try to barge into established systems and tear them down without learning how they work. You've barely been in Congress, and already you think you can interrogate Supreme Court justices." Crockett leaned forward slightly. Her voice carried the calm certainty of someone who knew the ground she stood on. "I think you're misunderstanding the role of Congress in our system," she said. "Allow me to explain." Judge Judy sneered. "Don't lecture me on the Constitution. I've been interpreting law for decades. The problem with your generation is you think you're always right, but you don't understand how institutions work." She jabbed a finger at Crockett. "You're a grandstander. Real lawyers don't shout. They let their work speak." Crockett reached into her folder. The crowd sensed what was coming. "Since my qualifications have been called into question," she said evenly, "let's take a look at the facts." She placed a file on the table. "Let's begin with your decisions on the bench before your television career." Judge Judy's face tightened. "What are you doing?" "I'm drawing a distinction between entertainment and judicial substance," Crockett said. "Since you've questioned my experience, it's only fair to examine yours." She held up a document. In 1987, you're ruling against a single mother seeking child support. You claimed she should have made better choices. 3 years later, the appellate court overturned it for lacking proper legal grounding. A wave of murmurs rolled through the crowd. For the first time, Judge Judy was being held to legal account on her own show. That ruling was based on the case presented. Judy snapped. Perhaps, Crockett said, but the court found it legally insufficient and noted your personal judgment clouded your ruling. Then Crockett dropped the line that turned the room on its head. But this isn't really your courtroom, is it? What did you say? Judge Judy asked. You're not a sitting judge anymore. You're a television host who arbitrates disputes for entertainment. I'm an elected federal lawmaker. Our roles in the actual legal system are quite different. You could have heard a pin drop. The authority you're trying to assert over me is theatrical, not constitutional. Judge Judy didn't respond. For the first time in her career, she couldn't. Crockett stayed calm, her tone firm but respectful. You mentioned respect for institutions. Allow me to show what that actually means. She opened another section of her folder. I took an oath to support the Constitution. That includes oversight of the judiciary. You call it grandstanding. The Constitution calls it checks and balances. She held up a pocket constitution. Congress investigates. That's our job. It's not disrespect, it's duty. Then she brought out another document. McGrain v. Doherty, 1927. The Supreme Court ruled that Congress has both the right and the obligation to investigate misconduct in government. That's not theater. That's constitutional law. Judge Judy sat motionless, absorbing the blows. You accused me of lacking professionalism, Crockett continued, but let me remind you, I earned my law degree, practiced civil rights law for years, and served in the Texas legislature before being elected to Congress. Her tone hardened slightly. My authority doesn't come from ratings. It comes from education, experience, and the voters who sent me here. The final blow was delivered without venom, just truth. You said I don't respect institutions. I do, but not all who claim authority have earned it. She let that hang in the air before continuing. My generation doesn't pretend to know everything, but we do know how to ask the right questions, to the right people, at the right time. You built your brand holding people accountable, she added. All I've done is ask the same accountability from our courts. The difference, when you grill small claims, it's entertainment. When I do it, it's constitutional duty. Then she stood up one last time. I didn't run for Congress for money or fame. I chose public service because some things matter more than money. Silence. Even Judge Judy looked changed. Finally, the judge spoke. Quietly, Congresswoman, that was quite a response. I may have underestimated you. Crockett smiled faintly. That happens to me a lot. The courtroom erupted. Applause, stunned silence, respect. This wasn't just compelling television. It was a lesson in authority, law, and professionalism. And for the first time ever, Judge Judy had been out-argued, and she knew it.